Today, Disney doubles down on woke. Their employees admit openly they want to indoctrinate your children. And economists have upped the amount of money that you are going to need to deal with inflation. Can't wait to get into that. We've got all that and more coming up, and it all starts right now. Hey, welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sarah Gonzalez, today joined by BlazeTV contributor Eric July, also host of For Canon's Sake, which you need to be subscribed to on the YouTubes. Yes. Also joined by, I'm so excited, I love it when she's in town, Morgan Zegers, who is, of course, founder of Young Americans Against Socialism. And it's really good to have you.
Thanks for having me.
It's nice to have some estrogen at the table.
Yes. I'm dressed like a prairie girl today, so I definitely am bringing it. I was on the Chad Prather show this morning. Yeah. Definitely brought some femininity to that set.
Good. Well, we need it. We need it. So thank you. So I want to get into all of this Disney stuff. It just keeps getting crazier and crazier. So as we talked about yesterday, Disney doubled down on their condemnation of Ron DeSantis's bill that he signed, basically like, hey, parents should actually make the call on this stuff. Schools should not be around to do things like sexually indoctrinate children. And by the way, only kindergarten through third grade. Right? So seems like something we can all agree on. Well, Disney is just doubling down on their wokeness, going full out. Chris Rufo, who is doing really, really great work on CRT and sexually indoctrinating children in schools. Chris Rufo was sent some footage from some meetings, some Zoom meetings that Disney had. And I want to go through some of these clips that he was sent. They are, in my opinion, extremely horrifying. Let's first play the Disney corporate president who says that she wants, her name is Carrie Burke, okay, she wants many LGBTQI2A++ characters because she actually is a mother of two children in the queer community. Watch.
I'm here as a mother of two queer children, actually, one transgender child and one pansexual child, and also as a leader. And that was the thing that really got me. We had an open forum last week at 20th where, again, the home of really incredible, groundbreaking LGBTQIA stories over the years where one of our execs stood up and said, you know, we only have a handful of queer leads in our content. And I went, what? That can't be true. And I realized, oh, it actually is true. We have many LGBTQIA characters in our stories, and yet we don't have enough leads and narratives in which gay characters just get to be characters. And not have to be about gay stories. And so that's been very eye-opening for me. And I hope this is a moment where, the 50% of the tears. Sorry.
Just getting all emotional about indoctrinating children.
We just don't allow each other to go backwards.
Yeah, don't go backwards, always forwards. That is why they had this Zoom call, of course, the Reimagine Tomorrow campaign, where they want to make sure that 50% of all of their characters and content would represent underrepresented groups by 2022 or the end of 2022. So, guys, I want to get your thoughts on this, but I want to play one more clip for you. And by the way, I'm going to leave out the clip of one of the people. This is, I believe, Disney's diversity and inclusion chief, who says anything that's diversity and inclusion. I'm like, I've stopped listening. Yeah. So I guess people may not be listening to what I'm about to say, but they are no longer addressing theme park visitors as ladies and gentlemen and boys and girls. They are now addressing them as dreamers and friends. So that's really cute. But let me, before I get your thoughts, let me play one other particularly egregious comment, which is someone talking about, this is Disney production coordinator Alan March talking about his team being committed to exploring queer stories and creating a tracker, that's not scary at all, to make sure that they are creating enough gender non-conforming characters. Watch.
I'm on the production side, part of the work that I feel like I can put in is making sure that we take place in modern day New York. So making sure that that's like an accurate reflection of New York. So I put together like a tracker of our background characters to make sure that we have like the full breadth of expression. And we got into a very similar conversation, Carrie, of like, oh, all of our like gender nonconforming characters are in the background. And so it's not just a numbers game of how many LGBTQ plus characters you have. We got the further, the more centered a story is on a character, the more nuanced you get into their story. And especially with like trans characters, you can't see if someone is trans. There's not one way to look trans. And so kind of the only way to have these like canonical trans characters, canonical asexual characters, canonical bisexual characters is to give them stories where they can like be their whole selves.
So I said that I was only going to play one other clip, but I don't want to play this full clip, but I do want to start playing this one, which is Disney executive producer LaToya Raveneau, who says that her team has implemented I'm quoting here, a not at all secret gay agenda and is regularly adding queerness to everything that your kids are watching. Watch some of this.
It's like, I love Disney's content. I grew up watching, all of the classics. They have been a huge, like, informative part of my life. But at the same time, like, I worked at small studios most of my career, and I'd heard, you hear whispers. Like, I'd heard things like, oh, they won't let you show this at a Disney show. And I'm like, okay. So I was a little, like, sus when I started. But then my experience was bafflingly the opposite of what I had heard on my little pocket of like, proud family Disney TVA. The showrunners were super welcoming. Meredith Roberts and like our leadership over there has been so welcoming to like my like not at all secret gay agenda. And so like I feel like I felt like it was, I mean, like maybe it was that way in the past, but I guess like something must have happened in the last like they are turning it around, they're going hard. And then all that like momentum that I felt, like that sense of, I don't have to be afraid to like, let's have these two characters kiss. Let's in the background, like I was just wherever I could, just basically adding queerness to like the, if you see anything.
All right, that's enough. We've heard enough. I've heard enough. I've heard enough. Morgan, I'm gonna go ladies first here. I realize I'm the only parent at the table, but I don't think that you need to be a parent to understand the insanity that this takes us when we're talking about corporations, schools, all of these places who are like, yeah, we actually do have this agenda to indoctrinate.
Yeah, I mean, this is such a long conversation, so I could really go on about this. First thing is, it was so creepy in the first clip to hear something like fill in the blank sexual child. That alone is wrong. Yeah. I remember talking to a friend, he's a 12-year-old and goes to public school. The girl came back one day and said, Daddy, I'm pansexual. 12. I mean, if you're told at 12 in a class that there's X number of different sexualities you could choose from, and that pansexual means you love everybody because that's the definition of it, then what 12-year-old isn't going to be like, that fits me, that fits my thing. So I've been on this journey, like you said, I don't have kids, I don't even have a boyfriend, and I admit that. I'm just very into family policy and education and all of these concepts now. And I started to get into it after COVID with the mandates, and they kept saying kids are resilient. They'll get through this. They can wear masks for 8 hours a day, and it's not going to hurt their development. I started saying, but I actually don't know if it would or not. I need to learn more about this. We all do. So I started reading childhood development books. I started listening to more childhood development podcasts. And it is truly disturbing when you actually look at what the COVID mandates do to children in these young ages. And then also now to see their innocence, to see parents trying to put that onto them, now knowing how innocent their minds are and how we are supposed to be helping, guiding them and formulating how to handle emotions. To have a child, like you were saying earlier, put a headband on their head and then we say, oh, you're confused, honey. Let me give you some sexual education at such a young age. It's disturbing. And when we hear that kind of stuff, I hate to say it, I used to be a lot nicer, but now I hear that and I just want to say, shut up. We aren't debating you as if this is a normal political issue. You are not going to be included in this conversation anymore. The adults need to go over here and figure out how this can be stopped. That's how it should be. Instead of us, oh, what's a good idea, what's a bad idea.
Right.
They shouldn't be included in this anymore.
This is a line in the sand, right? Yeah, and that's where I'm at as well, is just like, I just don't know that I can tolerate a back and forth with someone who is not willing to say corporations and schools and really anyone other than the parents should be trying to indoctrinate all of these kids into sexual ideologies. And actually, by the way, while I'm saying that, even the parents should not be doing that. But that's a completely different area there that we may not have time to get into today.
Yeah, look, this is something that I've spoke about extensively, certainly on my channel, on the show, because this is in the realm of where I exist in, and that is like entertainment. So you have these weirdos who have infiltrated basically all sectors of it, all industries, different types of industries, and they have made it abundantly clear that they are going to basically co-sign whatever the authoritarian left wants them to, and they will put out whatever filth it is that they want, and they're not hiding it anymore. At all. You heard her say that it's not so secret. Certainly gay agenda. They're pushing forward these policies that don't even match up. It's funny these guys rally so much about representation, and now we're about to have an over-representation of such a small demographic of people when they want 50% of them to be of you say underrepresented certain groups. And then she's talking about, well, I'm putting queer people everywhere, wherever I can put them. And that is funny because we had been making note of that. I certainly made note of that stuff in the comic books. And like people would call me crazy for it when no, they pretty much are on the nose and blatant with it. Now, I've said before, and I know you agree with me on this whole idea of defunding these sort of institutions. Yes, I've had my gripes. I've been screaming for the last 10 years that people that are not leftist should have been involved in the culture. They neglected it. They thought they were the smartest people in the room. They got their Ivy League degrees. So who cares what the actors think?
We'll just keep talking about taxes.
Yes, and politics and all of that, because who cares? And now you're getting your ass kicked, for lack of better terms, in the culture.
Right.
And what you see are the ramifications from you completely ignoring that. Okay, you want to turn this tide around, you got to get involved. And to do that, it requires, I think, particularly folks, whether it be conservative, libertarian, whatever you want to call yourself, they undermine how much power they have as customers. Disney, yes, they own a whole hell of a lot of different things. Like, again, I'm a Marvel DC guy. They got hold of Marvel. That's just what it is. If I can detach myself from having a pull list, going to the local comic book shop every Wednesday and not giving that piece of crap company my money, anybody can do it for any industry. Now, entertainment is the easiest one to do. So this is why I don't have leeway. You want to talk about why I won't go back and forth. What I won't do as well, I ain't got no time for black pillars, and I certainly have no time for these demoralized idiots, a lot of them being conservative, who act like there's nothing we can do, right? They're so big, they're so massive, who cares? I just want to consume new Spider-Man, and out here the nostalgic keys I'm going to dangle in your face because you want to see Toby be Spider-Man again. And this is why it's not just about youngsters. You understand all the Disney controllers, families, like it's an entire structure of people that they are trying to indoctrinate. We need to unplug from the freaking matrix. You do not have to fund this company. I don't know where we get off thinking like, I have to go watch the latest film. I have to give my money. You don't got to do anything. This is entertainment. We're not talking about water bottles and food right here. We're talking about entertainment. That can be replaced with anything. Go for a run or go, I don't know, fund an entertainer that doesn't hate you.
Yeah. We're
We're out here, guys. We're out here. Certainly. So until we do that, I certainly am not going to give any kind of, I know we love our Glenn Beck, of course. We talk about ESG all the time. I don't even think that's worth talking about until with the conservative or libertarian, you got half of the freaking voting population. Entertainment companies are calling you Nazis, and you're still funding them. Yeah. So this is why I say, until that happens, shut up about everything else. We haven't done everything it is that we can do in order to, defund them and stop paying people to hate you.
So Morgan, I'm going to give you last word on this.
That's such a good point.
Yeah, I want to throw in here too, Eric, because you're talking about all of their movies and stuff, but I mean, Disney has continued to raise their prices at their theme parks. They're making it way harder for average Americans to be able to afford taking their families. They are really nickel and diming everyone at this point. And it's like, when you're doing that, and you're also doing all of these things, do you think that people are not just going to go over to Universal, which is really not that far down the street from
And they
them?
haven't taken a public position.
Right, I know. I'm like, Universal, please, dear
Just shut
God,
up.
don't say
Just
anything because I need a place to take my freaking kids.
Yeah, see, for me, it's like, like you said, people are super weak on this. This is mindset. It's entertainment.
Yes.
It's going to a theme park. I've said before, like, I'm not taking my kids to Disney. I don't care. One, the politics. Two, I don't want them to strive for excitement from those kind of activities. I hope that they get their joy from other things. And so maybe that's idealistic, but people say, how dare you not let your kids go to Disney? How dare you take that happiness from them? Are you kidding? Why have we conformed into this stupid mindset?
Yeah.
I think for so many things of like, oh, everybody's got to go to Disney and vacation. Everybody's got to watch the new movies that come out. When you think of, want to know what disgusts me? At concerts, the little girls that start crying when they see a singer on stage, it is a sickening mentality to have to put any of these people on pedestals. And so that gets to that, like, a whole other conversation. But this is just a good example. It's an entertainment company. And as humans, we are pathetically weak if we can't just say, wow, they literally call us Nazis, but we're going to continue to give them money. That's as bad as it is, and it's embarrassing.
Yeah. All right. All good points here. We've got to take a break, but first we want to thank our sponsor, Birch Gold Group. So we talk about this all the time. Inflation is not pretty right now. You're paying like 47% more for fuel than a year ago. You're paying 41% more for the same used vehicle if you bought it this year instead of last year. You're paying like they say 10% more to feed your family. It doesn't feel like that when I go to the grocery store. It actually feels like more than that. Every dollar in your savings is actually worth less than it was a year ago. You got to hedge against the dollar right now by investing in something with real value. That is gold and silver from Birch Gold. Look, precious metals have always been a safe haven in times of inflation, and Birch Gold is the leader in converting IRAs and 401ks into a tax-sheltered IRA that is backed by gold and silver. They've got thousands of satisfied customers. They've got an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Birch Gold can help you protect your savings. Do not sleep on this. It is just going to continue to get worse, okay? And you will be wasting your money. You will be losing your hard-earned money. You got to text the word WHY to 989898. You can get a free info kit on gold. There's no obligation. There's no reason not to do this. Just text the word WHY, that's WHY, to 989898. Economists are warning. We were just talking about inflation with Birch Gold. This is a real thing, you guys. Economists are now warning that Americans should consider budgeting an extra $5,200. That's $5,200 this year, or $433 monthly, just in order to fight all of the effects of inflation. And so approximately $2,200, they say, of that inflation tax will come as a result of higher food and energy prices. And again, you know, we kept hearing from the Biden administration, this is just going to be transitory. It's temporary, you guys. This is actually a good thing. Well, we kept hearing all of these the narrative change. You know, it's temporary. Well, okay, it may be lasting longer, but don't worry, it'll go away, to actually it's a good thing, and you shouldn't actually expect your food to be on the shelves, your supplies actually delivered. Actually, you should just lower your standards instead of expecting the economy and the supply chain to work the way that it's always worked before. So I want to kind of tie this into a new Gallup poll that was just released. I believe it was yesterday, and it said that the Americans most Americans rate inflation as their top issue of everything, right? Because everything has gotten so bad. I don't see it getting better with all of the policies that they are pushing forward. And you just got to wonder what the Democrats' strategy is in letting all of this transpire. You know, we talk a lot, Morgan, on this program. I know Eric's always here. So we talk a lot on this program about oil and gas and now how this is a strategy for them. They are using all of these crises to push through all of their green energy policies, and they're not even really hiding it anymore with some of the things that they're saying. So it's like they know that they are doing this. They know that they are damaging the economy for this end goal, but do they really think they will hold power long enough to be able to see the end goal through? Because it really just feels like they're just messing everything up to hand it over to the Republicans, although I'm not saying the Republicans will actually do anything about it. But like, it just feels like they're messing everything up just to hand it over to Republicans, because Americans are not going to stand back and watch this happen. $5,200 a year? Like, the average American does not have that just laying around. They're just trying to make ends meet as it is.
Exactly. Actually, that's what I thought of. I remember a startling number came out a handful of months ago that a crazy amount of Americans don't even have $1,000 in emergency funds or just extra usable money that they could use on an annual basis. $1,000. And so think of it when Nancy Pelosi said $1,000 was crumbs. To people like her, it is. To most people, though, who have to pay rent by paycheck every month, it's not a joke. And so $50,000 or $5,000 is insane. I feel it every day when I fill up my 4Runner and when I go to the grocery store. I'm a single girl that lives in a tiny apartment in Phoenix. And when I am having to go grocery shop for myself, I don't eat a lot of food every week.
Right.
But oh my gosh, like even my bill is like high now. And so it's crazy. It's like I'm buying food for a family. Long term, I'm really concerned about this because you guys are very aware of this. When America collapses, it's not going to be some boom, big, violent, revolutionary moment where the left rises up like the Bolsheviks. Instead, it's just this slow decay. And we saw that in Venezuela. We saw it in many other countries who, once they're in power, they start implementing policies one after another. It leads to the decline of the economy, and then everything else starts to collapse. And one of those things that happens is inflation. So this is yet another outcome that we have been expecting for quite some time. So to actually see it play out, though, is very, very concerning. And it's just, it more so like hurts my heart because it's like, well, this is what the next step is. Yeah, technically.
Yeah, and it's like, we warned of this, you guys. We told you guys that this was going to happen, and nobody listened. Well, actually, I take that back. I think people listened, but there was like a fortification that had to happen, but I won't get into it here. Eric.
Look, this is, you didn't need an economist certainly to tell you that this was going to be an issue, and it's historically been an issue. I mean, when you have what you have in the central banking system in a combination with the Treasury that prints money out of thin air and sells off assets of your unborn people. Meanwhile, the Congress is spending money that they don't have because they're allowed to monetize their own debt. This is exactly what it is that you're going to get. I mean, Rothbard was talking about this, I don't know, long before I was even born, trying to scream at you people in the Fed. This is this rotten animal, but nobody listens, right? Because you get these folks in office and they care more about implementing their own personal agendas. They're there for 2 or 4 years or whatever it is. And it's criminal what it is that they've done. But I'm not letting the American people off the hook because they've supported these jackwagons that have then implemented these sorts of policies. See, this is what happens when you rule, and Democrats are very good at this, though not exclusively, this is them. They rule by emotion. Economic law is economic law. And I'm not saying like as in legislation. Right. I am saying as what an economy is going to do is what an economy is going to do. Keynesians might not want to predict that because these idiots, which are probably the same guys who are totaling up this $5,000 mark, they think you could spin your way out of debt and all those sorts of moronic ideas that got us certainly into this position. Now, of course, it's not only the Democrats' fault, but they lead with emotion. So you have all of these folks who are like, well, the government's going to do more. We're going to pay for more. We're going to control more. We're going to regulate more. And it's all to save you and save your kids. It's always for the children, right? So they want to save these people. And what they do is implement these policies where you end up feeling the brunt of it, whether it be through direct taxation or inflation, which is a tax effectively. It's the same way. You have your money goes less of a way is more so what this is. But in order for this to stop, I don't think that I don't look at this as like this train, which I mean, as long as these idiots are in power, it's going to be that way. That's one way and it can't stop. It can certainly stop, but it's going to require certainly these chicken crap Republicans to stop it with this spending in terms of their efforts, but also acting as if it's the government job to do even of the most basic things, because that gets you into this mess. The government every year, what was it yesterday that I think we talked about this? Every single year, nobody bats an eye. They literally say, hey, we're not going to get this money. We know it's not there. It's not going to be there. It's called deficit spending, and they still spend it. And we just act like it's normal, and it's by the upward of a $1.5 trillion that they do every single fiscal year. The fact that people aren't, this is why I said, I know I'm probably going to get in trouble. I'm sorry, programmers. But January 6th, I know everybody got all irate and was trying to fall over themselves to demonize what happened. I'm y'all are forgetting that's the criminal class. The Congress are the criminal class. Not only do they send your children off to war, but they also do what's happening right now. But in order for that to end, you got to come to that realization, man. Like this spending effort, this idea that government is supposed to take care of you, it has historically gotten you exactly in the mess that we're getting in now. I love that you mentioned these other countries. We have Venezuela. You mentioned it was the same thing happened with the USSR. You talk about all these great famines. Why do you think that sort of stuff happens? Because you think, or rather you have people that are in power that think that they can just overdo, or rather just end what is economic law by way of their emotions. And you can get away with that, like for the time being, but it always catches up.
Morgan, do you think, are we too far gone? Have too many dominoes fallen with all of these policies being enacted, or do you think that there's still time to correct course?
Well, I like what you said there about, this feels like a train that's headed nonstop and it's about to slam into a brick wall or something, but I feel like it absolutely could if we were intentional and the proper people got together and started acting in a way that could bring true change. We could do something. That being said, I remember a couple of years ago, I reached out, for example, about education policy. And I was told by people in DC that they don't care about that kind of stuff and it won't be picked up by them, my idea, because it's too cultural and they like to focus on economics. And so it's that kind of stuff where it's like a lot of people have a lot of funding and a lot of money and power, but they don't put the resources behind the right things. That being said, I think we have to upend the education system. I don't think anything's going to change in this country unless that is completely upended. People are wondering, were our founders wrong? I say our founders were right, but they had no idea that the fourth branch of government was going to be created, which is the bureaucracy. What I worry about is the tyranny through bureaucracy. They're going to continue to hammer us with terrible economic policy. But what they do, instead of throwing us in the gulag, they shut down our businesses. They send CPS to our homes. They attack us in indirect ways with their creepy, crawly arms. And that's really how we're going to see the downfall of America. When hair salon stylists open up a week early because of COVID mandates and have CPS sent to their home, that means we've reached a point where there's no turning back unless major change is brought. How you upend the bureaucracy, the fourth branch of government, I don't know. But I think we are too far gone to act like this is one election away from being fixed. That's one thing.
Yeah, amen. All right, let's go ahead and take a break. When we come back, let's talk about, you heard all of these things that are going on that are really destroying our country. Wait until you hear what the Biden administration is focused on with their new federal law. We'll be right back. So inflation may be killing you, and the left may be trying to sexually indoctrinate all of your children, but the Biden administration apparently couldn't care less because they are touting a new bill that Joe just signed into law that makes lynching a federal hate crime. So which is weird because I could be wrong. I thought that murder and attempted murder were already on the books. We were clear that was a crime. You got punished for it. I maybe not as severely as some people would like, but I felt like that was a pretty severe crime already on the books. But of course, everything now has to be about race. So this is the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act of 2022. And they are touting it like it's, yay, we got a new federal hate crime. We are so excited about this. Don't pay attention to all of these other things that are going on over here. Don't pay attention to your life sucking and what the number says every time you fill up your gas tank. Look at all of the work that we're doing for diversity and inclusion. This is great. This is great news. And I want to get your thoughts on that. But while we're on this, just so that we don't run out of time, while that's happening, California's reparations task force voted that Black Californians who can provide a direct lineage to enslaved ancestors will be eligible for this is the first in the nation. It is a statewide initiative, reparations, to address the harms and enduring legacy of slavery. So they keep talking about it, right? And now they are moving forward with it. They say they have to prove their lineage, but if you do, you will get those reparations for direct descendants. Eric.
Well, I don't know, man. You guys wanted roads so bad, and it always comes back to that, and that's why you justify government so much. You wanted roads, and this is what you got. You got idiots, which something that was already illegal, even at the federal level. But this is something they was touting out a while back, and they just now got it passed. I remember Rand Paul was screaming like, "This is already illegal. Like, what are y'all? What are y'all doing?"
But have you considered what happens when you make it double illegal?
Double legal, I guess. it's even worse. But to idiots who vote, unfortunately, and have the quote unquote right to do it, they support stuff like this because this is why we call them NPCs, right? Roll out a new script, and now all of a sudden everybody cares about lynching. Apparently, the famous French actor Jussie Smollett, to my knowledge, he's the only one that's been lynched, and ironically, it was by himself. Nonetheless, that's not a problem that we need to be dealing with or anything. It's just these guys are so obsessed with race and going back in history and trying to say that, just because this person is black or whatever, this ongoing legacy of slavery, this is something that they've been discussing, since really Frederick Douglass on to debates with W.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington. Like, this is not a new conversation that had been had where you have people, race hustlers, who are the ones that are in this guy's Biden's ear, who focus so much on this dumb crap. The reparations argument is the dumbest one by far, because people don't seem to understand where the money comes from. But this is what happens when you allow stupid people to vote, because they think that it just, well, technically, I guess it does come out of thin air, but you get what it is that I'm saying. Like, the money's coming from you or your future generations one way or another. The government is not a producer, and your basic average American is too dumb to understand that. So they look at it like, well, so-and-so got reparations. The Japanese, the Native Americans, and all this guy, now these people need to get reparations. I'm like, where the hell is the money coming from? They already broke. So where's the money? Definitely California. Where's the money coming from? Oh, it's coming from you, but you're too stupid to actually realize it. So this is, anytime we talk about these dumb stories, I end on this note, it just makes the case against democracy, because these people should not be allowed to vote. And the fact that their vote matter, I don't participate in this charade anyway, but the fact that, let's assume that I went out there and voted like that, the fact that these dumb people and their vote matters just as much as mine shows the fundamental issue with this sort of governmental structure it is that we have, because you get stupid people that thought lynching was, I guess, legal prior to Joe Biden signing whatever stupid bill.
Yeah, legal and also a big problem.
Yeah.
Big problem.
Again, to be fair, Jussie Smollett, he was lynched.
He was a
by
victim.
those MAGA hat wearing people
that he hired
in Chicago at the subway.
Right. Morgan, what are your thoughts?
There's a common theme with literally every political issue, and it's ignorance and complacency. That's, again, what we're dealing with here. People are not smart enough to look at the issue and make the proper judgments. And I think we just need to start talking about that more. It all goes back to, again, the education system and failing to raise our children in a proper way with intention. But with this, just like with the sexual education stuff, the more they do this stuff, especially when people are being told, oh, save another $5,000 in your savings because of inflation, because of our bad policies, and maybe get an electric vehicle if you can't afford gas, that kind of stuff, it really rubs salt in the wound. And there's a lot of people, there's ignorance, but there's also complacency. And because they've been so complacent for decades, we have had multiple generations of Americans that were like, it can never be bad. We're blessed to be in America, Toby Keith, and all that stuff. It's like, we just assumed it could never really get that bad. So the worse it gets, and the more these people push their woke agenda, it's gonna keep waking people up. I'm sorry, but I don't think there's any other way to wake people up these days other than learning the really harsh lessons that they're learning. And you can't really teach them any other way, apparently. They won't seek out the information. We have all the access to every piece of information on the internet that we could possibly want to learn that could make this a free and prosperous society once again, and no one even dares to do a Google search to find the information. So I'm just disappointed in all of us at this point.
Wow, that's a black pill, Morgan.
I'm sorry. It's the truth,
You
though.
have
It's
to
very
acknowledge the
frustrating.
reality in order to come up with some sort of solution. So she's right.
Okay, but let me just, if they want to do reparations, how would you guys feel if we just all agreed the reparations could only come from Democrats because they are the party
All
of
right.
slavery.
Now-
they are the
now
party
you
of the
may
Ku
get
Klux
me in.
Klan.
You may get me in.
Okay,
And I would say
Jim
this. How
Crow
about
laws,
this? I even
all
have a better
right?
idea. What happens is you have this big pool, right? And you get, for guys that like the virtue signal, you can put your name on a board or whatever.
Yeah.
That you know, you reach in your own damn pocket to put money into the reparations pool,
Right?
And you know, then they can reroute those fundings. That's going to get peed away either way it goes. But hey, reparations.
Do you want to know what's bad too? I bet you not a lot of people are going to apply for this. If you have to find and trace back your
Most
lineage,
people are going to be very surprised.
I feel like people are going to be like, that sounds super hard.
Yeah.
And they're not going to do it. So I wonder how many people are actually going to go through that process.
I know. I thought the same thing, Morgan, because I was like, this feels a lot like California wanting to be able to say we did it.
Yeah.
But
That's what
not
I'm thinking.
actually wanting to be able to implement it, knowing that people are not going to be able to prove that or like know where to start.
Well, yeah, if you think of like bureaucracy, I wonder how hard it's going to be. If you have to like put all that stuff in, who wants to go through the paperwork? People don't even like going to the DMV. So I wonder like actually implementing this, what it's going to look like.
Well, you're talking about people are too lazy to do a Google search.
Yeah.
Like they're not going to look for this stuff. So, all right, we've got more to come, but we got to take a quick break.
I'm sorry, I told you the black card. But it really is about everything.
Ron DeSantis, we mentioned what's going on in Florida with all of the great work that he is doing for parental rights. He also is the head of a new lawsuit. This is 21 states who have joined together seeking to end federal masking mandates for air travel and public transportation. DeSantis said it's well past time to get rid of this unnecessary mandate and get back to normal life. It is amazing that this has gone on as long as it is. Now, this was after the mandate was set to expire. I believe it was, like March 18th or something? But it was earlier this month. It was set to expire, and I think there were a lot of people who thought, well, surely they can't push it out further. I mean, COVID is not a thing anymore. This is dead. Why would we push it back out? And then, of course, they extended it to April 18th. I think I've heard from some views are like, well, why don't you just wait until April 18th? I mean, you're going to file a whole lawsuit about it? Why don't you just wait it out? Well, because they're going to keep extending it like they just freaking did, because they don't want to end that power and control. If this were about science, they may think to themselves, maybe we should read all of these studies that show that like the oxygen, the air that people are breathing in airplanes is like the cleanest freaking air that you could breathe. And yet they still have to abide by this mask mandate. So 21 states suing the federal government to end these mask mandates. I don't know what's going to happen. This is of course, Ron DeSantis, I mentioned, is leading it. So this is going to be heard in Florida as the middle district of Florida. And we will see what happens. But Morgan, I have to ask you, did you fly? You flew here, right?
I flew here, and yes, I got yelled at many times because I won't put my mask on.
Yeah.
And I honestly, there's so many different levels to this of like the flight attendants that are so passionate about continuing to make you wear your mask. Yeah. Sometimes I get on most of the time now because I travel a lot, and everybody's like, listen, this is super bad, like super lame, fake. They don't ask you to put it back on or cover your nose. And then all of a sudden you meet someone who is on a power trip who will walk back and forth and ask you to cover your nose every time. And then this most recently, I felt like such a little bad girl. She was, she was like, ma'am, I'm gonna have to write a report about you if you don't put that on. It's because I eat these little baby carrots, Sarah.
Oh, that's so smart.
Whenever I go to the
Very
airport,
slowly.
I just carry a little baby carrot in my fingers and like roll my suitcase, and then I nibble on the baby carrot. I just find something so funny about it with my little carrot.
That.
And so she said I wasn't eating my carrot fast enough. It's a whole thing. I enjoy it.
You are not the boss of how quickly I eat my vegetables.
I know. So then I'm like,
ma'am.
oh, sorry. I got my carrot. I enjoy myself. You can't stop it with these people.
Yeah,
so,
that reminds me of did you see the viral video of the guy who just had a fry hanging out of his mouth like the whole flight? He just kept kind of chewing on it every time the flight. And I'm like, I don't understand the logistics of that because it feels like it would get very soggy in your mouth.
It's impressive. I think you probably just totally did.
But yeah, Eric, it's crazy.
Yeah, I also think something else that's going on way too long is the federal government. I would love it for it to be eliminated. How many states? 21 states?
21
Have a
states.
better idea. How about we just have those 21 states secede? And then instead of answering to, I don't know, a federal government where you have to share a government with idiots from like California and New York and folks that are just ideologically completely different. I mean, you know, because you travel a lot. You go to some of these other places, you're in a completely different realm. Like definitely with this whole COVID situation, we have to remind ourselves every day that, yeah, though we just pretty much have returned back to normal, there are people that are still keeping up with this charade. But I always, when stuff like this comes about and you have, well, these groups of states really don't like that the federal government is doing something to them. And I'm like, why are we still answering to the federal government? People have an abusive relationship is what it is with the federal government. It doesn't need to exist. You can have, if you want your little defense packs or whatever, my military or whatever the things that you guys want, whatever, you could do that stuff without having some swamp in Washington and idiots having to share governments with each other and line their pockets up. So I think, the mask mandates, of course, have gone on for too long, but so has the federal government.
Well, what I'm confused about is we're reaching this point where, like, whenever there is federal tyranny, the states are supposed to protect us. And I feel like they have not been doing their job according to what the founders had intended with this entire system of federalism, because they were supposed to stand up for us, and instead they're allowing the bureaucracy, like I said, with CPS and random bureaucratic offices to completely disrupt our lives. So then if we don't comply, think of all the business owners that have hundreds of thousands of dollars of fines. Like, you can't just reject that. Then you'll go to jail if you don't pay the fine. So they're finding ways to completely smush you under their boot. First of all, I hate being called a bootlicker by communists because they lick the boots, and I am anti-boot. But how are we supposed to do that if no one else in the system of federalism understands their role anymore? Think of the law enforcement. They are supposed to be a check on these other systems in our government, and they've completely abandoned it, saying, well, I'm just doing my job. So no one understands their basic role anymore.
Yeah.
Well,
so where do we go from there?
That's why it's a problem, because everybody that's in all the cogs in the machine are pushing it on the person that's above them instead of actually standing for liberty. It's like, well, we excuse their bad behavior, even though they're acting on behalf of the people that, I'd call them another name if it was my show, but the bad people, they act as the enforcement wing of them. And until people realize, like, look, man, this is wrong, and wrong is certainly wrong, nothing's gonna change. But as long as we kept saying, well, I answered to this person said this, well, I'm just doing my job, so the next person, you gotta take it up with them. I'm like, that's so stupid, the fact that we've gotten through those levels of bureaucracy in the way that we are, where people just won't even acknowledge liberty and stand up for it. It's quite sad.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like it's protect and serve, but it's not you that they're protecting and serving.
Protecting and serving
It's
the
the
state.
government, yeah.
That's who they're protecting and serving.
Yeah.
Last word?
With all the checks, like you have the federal government, state, local, law enforcement, and the people. And when the vaccine mandate came out, I can't tell you how many people messaged me saying, so should I quit my job? Or like, what am I supposed to do to not comply? How does that even look? Like, what is our solution? Are we screwed? And it's like, how come we can't, as individuals, say, okay, at my company, if they're going to try and force it, let's get all the employees together that are going to stand up. Let's ask for a meeting with our boss. Let's see if he supports us. If not, let's find other people. But then we'll take with our boss a meeting to other companies in the community. We all form together and form a sort of interest group, ask for meetings with the local politicians, ask for meetings with the sheriff's department, and then continue to get people at the state level. And like, what happened to understanding how actual community organizing works? Not the leftist kind of crazy stuff, but if you think about it like that, it's kind of basic with the building blocks.
Yeah, amen. All right, we'll be right back. All right, Morgan, I've so enjoyed having you back on the program. I hope that you'll be here more often. But in the meantime, can you tell everyone where they can find you?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
If you want to do anything with our nonprofit, if you want to watch the survivor testimonies that we're actually filming in the building next door at American Journey Experience, they're so sweet for letting us film there. You can go to fightsocialism.org, and then Instagram is really where you can see all the behind the scenes. So my Instagram is morgan.zeggers. And I really appreciate it, Sarah. Thank you.
Yeah, I would encourage you to follow Morgan on Instagram too, because you just post the cutest videos. It's like Morgan rollerblading and falling, but you know what? She gets back up.
Yeah,
and
I
that's what
posted that for
matters.
the USSR the day that it fell. I said, falling as hard as they fell on this day.
It was so cute. And then, of course, you know where you can find Eric. This is Young Ripa 59 on YouTube. Don't ask him to change his name. He's not going to. All right, he's not going to. But make sure that you are subscribed and following both of these lovely people. And speaking of subscribing, make sure you subscribe to Blaze TV. You can go to blazetv.com, use promo code NEWS, and you will save some moolah. That is blazetv.com.